Spiritual Christianity, collected from the theological works of Emanuel Swedenborg by Charles Augustus Tulk. Prefatory remarks to Chapter 4. Point number 39. Having seen by the preceding extracts that heaven is not a place existing extraneous to angels, but is a heavenly state of their minds, when by regeneration they are open to the reception of spiritual love and wisdom from the Lord, it shall now be shown from the author's works that those states of love and wisdom, and of goodness and truth, are not alike in any two angels, for each one is distinct as to the form and qualities of his mind from every other, and yet that notwithstanding this indefinite variety, the most perfect order reigns throughout, and such a heavenly harmony that each angel, even to the lowest, loves another as himself, and where the reception of the divine love is fuller and more complete, far better than himself, that he communicates freely all he knows to others, and in endless ways is continually endeavouring by acts of useful service to contribute to their happiness and delight. For they all receive, according to the form and state of his mind, the one divine life of love and wisdom, and this being received by each circulates through the whole, causing everyone to perform the duties for which he is best fitted, and to seek and find his chief joy in serving the Lord by ministering to the general good. This coordinated varieties of all regenerated minds, which is heaven in its most comprehensive sense, is called the greatest man, Maximus Homo, of which, as it is the Lord's love and wisdom that circulate through the whole, he, and he alone, is the essential life. This coordinated variety is correspondentially represented in its ectype, the human body, when in a state of the health, the parts of which are so exactly formed in relation to the general system that notwithstanding the various functions of its complicated structure, the viscera, the organs of sensation and of motion, constitute one harmonious whole, actuated by one life and obedient to one will. Point number 40. There are 3 discriminated degrees of heavenly life in the greatest man, which are called the 3 heavens. These heavens are distinct or discriminated from one another as to their interior states of life, and therefore have no direct communication with one another by outward association, but only by correspondence and influx. In each of the 3 heavens, the various and changing states of the internal man are exhibited sensuously to the external by the objects of sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, which, as they are the effects of the peculiar form of the individual mind in its relationship to the other minds, are presented as outward objects to those only who are in similar states of will and thought, or who can be brought into them. Thus, the objects of that heaven which is called the inmost cannot be beheld, nor be objective to the other senses, except by those who have such an inmost or essential love towards the Lord, as to have a perception of that love within themselves. For their sensuous world is the effect of such a love. It is created by an influx of the divine life through that state of love and its corresponding wisdom, and is not in effect producible to those who are in a lower degree as to the conditions of their minds. The same is true of the interior or the middle heaven, in which the state of the angels is one of charity towards their neighbours or love for others, with its corresponding perceptions, and not so much a perception of love to the Lord. These do not see the angels of the exterior heaven, because their charity is of a lower kind, being derived from their affection for truth, for they have no perception of real and essential charity towards one another, except from the truth by which they are affected. Point number 41. But each of these 3 heavens is composed of innumerable societies, and their association being determined by congenial spheres of life, or by the harmony of spiritual affinities, each society has its own portion of an outward world, answering in every respect to the associated world of love and wisdom within. And it is only by such interior changes as shall produce a similarity of state that the angels, who belong to different societies of the same heaven, become consciously present to one another, and behold those sensuous objects which are the effects of their concordant love and thought. Point number 42. In all this we may trace the presence of one universal law, that the distinctions in the heavens are founded solely upon distinctions in the states of the will and intellect, and not upon the distinct objects which are presented to their external or sensuous mind, and still less upon any supposed places existing independently of angelic beings, for such places can have no existence in heaven, there being no space whatever in the other life in which they could exist. Chapter 4. All the representative distinctions in the heavens, of societies, of kingdoms, and of worlds, are determined by nothing of an external kind, but by the divine law of heavenly love, which associates every angel, having a form of mind distinct from every other, with those towards whom he is attracted by congenial spheres or spiritual usefulness. And the first reading is from Arcana Celestia, number 684. There are 3 heavens, the first consisting of good spirits, the second of angelic spirits, and the third of angels. One heaven is interior to another, and purer than another, so as to be entirely distinct. The first heaven, as well as the second and third, is distinguished into innumerable societies, each society consisting of many individuals who, from the harmony and unanimity of reigning among them, are in their constitution as to one person, and the aggregate of societies as one man. The societies are distinct the one from the other according to the differences of their mutual love and of their faith in the Lord, which differences are innumerable, so that not even the general, which are most universal, can be enumerated. Nor can there exist the smallest difference that is not arranged in an order so perfectly exact as to be in the most complete accordance with the whole community, which in turn concurs with the distinct unanimity of each. In this way does each contribute to the happiness of all, and all to the happiness of each. And by this also is every angel, as well as every society, an image of the whole heaven, and, as it were, a little heaven. And the next readings from Arcana Celestia, number 637. Such being the constitution of heaven, no one angel or spirit can have any life unless he be in some society, and thus in that harmony among many, which in fact constitutes a society. Indeed, in heaven there is no one life disassociated from the life of others, for it is only in consequence of his conjunction with heaven and with the world of spirits, by means of many others who belong to his society, that an angel or a spirit has anything of life, that is so affected with goodness and truth as to desire the former and to make the latter the object of his thoughts. This is equally true of the society itself. And from Arcana Celestia number 690. It is of importance to know that there is no one society in heaven altogether and absolutely like another, nor is there any individual like another in the same society. But there is a consentient and harmonious variety of all, which varieties are so ordinated by the Lord that they tend to one end. This is effected by their love and their faith towards him, and this is the cause of their union. Therefore, there is never either one heaven or one heavenly joy wholly and absolutely like another, but according to the varieties of their love and of their faith, such is heaven in them, and such their joy. And from Arcana Celestia 3691. It is known that there are 3 heavens, the one interior to the other, and the third the inmost. These heavens are most distinct from one another according to degrees. They who are in the inmost or third heaven are spiritually nearer the Lord. They who are in the interior or second heaven are more remote, and they who are in the exterior or first heaven are spiritually still more remote. There is no other possible communication between these heavens than one like that which subsists between man's inmost and exterior states of life. For the man who is in a state of love to the Lord and of charity towards his neighbour is in a manner a little heaven, corresponding in its image to the 3 heavens. Derived also from these 3 heavens, he has an influx of goodness and of truth from the Lord, answering to the like degrees in him. They whose love to the Lord is of such an essential kind that they have an actual perception of that love are in a higher degree of goodness and truth, and are in the inmost or third heaven. They are therefore spiritually nearer the Lord and are called celestial angels. But they whose state of mind is one of charity towards their neighbour, and that to such a degree as to have an actual perception of charity, and not so much the perception of love to the Lord, are in a lower degree of goodness and of truth. These are in the interior or the middle heaven, and thus are spiritually more remote from the Lord. They are called spiritual angels. But they whose charity towards their neighbour is derived only from their affection for truth, so much so that they have no perception of essential charity towards another except from the truth by which they are affected, are in still a lower degree of goodness and of truth. These are in the exterior or first heaven and are still more remote from the Lord. They are called good spirits. This explanation will in some measure serve to show how these degrees are constituted. The states of life which are of a higher degree present themselves in an image in those states which belong to the next, lower degree. The nearest image of the Lord, which is called his likeness, is exhibited in love to him, and therefore they who have such an inmost or essential love are called his likeness. An image of the Lord is exhibited in charity, for in charity he is present, but more remotely, and on that account they who are in this state are not called likeness, but images of the Lord. And they who have an affection of truth, and in consequence of this affection have some appearance of charity towards their neighbour, are also images of the Lord, but still more remotely. By these 3 degrees are the 3 heavens distinct, and according to these degrees the Lord inflows with his divine goodness and truth, and thus with wisdom and intelligence, along with heavenly joy and happiness. From Arcana Celestia number 4286. The inmost or third heaven is celestial, and the angels are called celestial, for they love the Lord and are in the closest conjunction with him. This being the state of their minds, they above all others are wise and innocent, and for this reason they are called innocences and wisdoms. These angels are distinguished into internal and external, the former being of a more celestial character than the latter. The middle or second is the spiritual heaven, for these angels are called spiritual from their charity towards their neighbour, or mutual love, which is so great that each loves another better than himself. In consequence of this, they are intelligent and are called intelligences. These angels also are distinguished into internal and external, the former being of a character more spiritual than the latter. But the ultimate or first heaven is in some measure both celestial and spiritual, though not in the same degree with the former, for a natural state of mind clings to them, and they are on that account called celestial natural and spiritual natural. Though they also have a mutual love for one another, they do not love others better than themselves, but only as themselves. They have an affection for goodness and a knowledge of truth, and are also distinguished into internal and external.